High five, right? High five.
Yeah.
Oh, high five. What's up, guys? Jaystonee here.
Umbrellaleg, and today we have a special guest with us.
Hey guys, I'm Sprintspeed. I am the president of the League of Legends Club at our public university here, and our club has over 1,300 people on our mailing list, so we're pretty large. We deal a lot with League of Legends, player interactivity, and yeah, so thanks for inviting me on the show, guys.
Of course.
No problems. So, just to generalize this conversation, we have Sprintspeed here to talk about League toxicity, right? Most of us in this video gaming space know that this is a big problem when it comes to League of Legends. So we all know that bad behavior, aggressive people in video games always happens. It's been happening for a very long time, even before League was actual thing. But now with League being with 65 million people,
yeah,
right, around the world, 27 million daily, with 7.5 people playing at the exact same time, that's a lot of people, but that also creates a lot of conflict.
A lot of anger.
Yeah.
So my first question to you is, why do people play League of Legends?
League of Legends is a game that pretty much promotes playing with your friends to the fullest extent. When you're playing a lot of other games like World of Warcraft or StarCraft, which is somewhat similar in terms of how you control the character, before, a lot of those games do focus on single-player aspects. For instance, when you're playing WoW, the game is played by yourself, and you can play with friends a lot, but League of Legends really emphasizes a 5v5 team component of the game. So the entire time you're interacting with others, you can play with other people, and also one thing that makes League pretty fun to play with people a lot is that whenever you finish a game, the next game you go into is completely independent of any you've ever played before. So if you have a bad match, sure, it might have gone pretty poorly, maybe you guys lost the game, but you can go jump right back in, spend about a half hour, play with your friends pretty casually.
Wow, okay. Wow, that seems pretty interesting on how just people just played for the sake of just having lots of people to interact with, right?
Okay.
Huh.
So what about ranked games?
Yeah, the way that ranked games work is that you queue up either by yourself or with one other friend. When you're doing unranked games, which are more casual, a more casual approach, you can queue with just any number of people. The team maximum size is 5, but you can queue with one to 5 people, and then it'll just fill in any others. But when you're doing ranked mode, it's only yourself or yourself and one other friend at a time. So basically, you're kind of, whenever you're trying to play at the most competitive level that you can individually, it puts you with pretty much strangers in random situations sometimes.
So that means these random strangers that you play with, right?
Determine your success.
Yeah, and therein kind of lies the problem with the inherent toxicity that League of Legends has seen for the past 5 years since its release.
Wow, but how did it come to be? Like, why is League itself so toxic? How did this game specifically is known for its toxicity than any other game out there?
Yeah, so League of Legends does have a reputation of being toxic, but toxicity itself isn't really a new thing to online gaming. It exists in pretty much any other game you can find out there. There are a few factors that make it show up pretty frequently in League of Legends compared to other games, though. One of them is what you touched on a little earlier, where you're always matched with random people and your success depends on their ability to work with you, and if they do pretty poorly individually, a lot of times that affects your ability to win the game, and oftentimes you'll just lose games, not necessarily because you're playing poorly, but just if other people on your team weren't up to par, then you could lose the game and you would personally be affected as a result. Not only is it that you're just with other people, but because the angle at which you view the game is a top-down view where you can see everything happening at once. It kind of lends itself to where your teammates can criticize you in a more open and easy environment than in other games such as Call of Duty.
Right.
Because if you see your character standing next to somebody else and your other teammate just walks in and dies, you just gotta look at it and be like, yo, what's going on? But if you're playing games like Call of Duty and you're like facing one way, it's a first-person view, and you don't necessarily know what your team is doing. So League kind of makes it easily accessible to criticize and evaluate your teammates' play.
So the perspective allows you to basically assess someone else's skill level. So that means if someone's really, really screwing up, you'd be like, hey, why are you really, really screwing up right now? You should fix that immediately, right? So I guess that's why ranked games is such a big deal, because you're assuming that a player should be at a certain skill level, right? But when someone enters a ranked game, does that necessarily mean that they should be entering like a hostile environment?
Well, obviously you want to work together and win as a team, but a lot of times people get this notion that I'm really good, I deserve to be higher ranked. And when you enter a random game with a bunch of strangers, you get really focused on you have to be the one person to win the game for them. And you actually see this kind of behavioral pattern in other games of the same genre like Dota and Heroes of the Storm. You don't want to have a hostile environment, and actually Riot sometimes releases some statistics like in loading game screens saying like people that cuss during the games lose, for instance, 15% more of their games. And little tidbits like that to try to just let people know that yelling at your teammates probably doesn't help, but it is still fairly frequently occurring, unfortunately.
So when it comes to trying to mitigate how many people actually are speaking foul language or threatening people, right? They start to ban people, right? But
Yeah.
do you know how many people on average are banned because of like toxic behavior? Or how does that even work in general?
I believe Riot has released statements saying that something like 99% of the player base actually doesn't get banned. There is like actually a psychological phenomenon where when you experience events that really stick in your memory, and even if they're very infrequently occurring, you tend to remember them a lot easier. So if you play 5 games in a day, and in one game somebody is yelling at you the whole game, they tell you to go out and like do some bad things, or tell you that you're worthless, things like that, that'll stick in your mind a lot more than the 4 other games you played that day where people didn't really say much, or like they just said good job, or like, oh man, we missed that ability or something like that. The numbers in terms of the overall player base that get punished actually isn't that high, but I think it just becomes very easily accessible to our memory when we think about a lot of our online interactions.
Oh, okay. So for people like Donkey, we all know Donkey, right?
Yeah, we know Donkey. Very well known for having a bad mouth.
Yeah. And he got in trouble for said behavior. I won't repeat the exact phrase, but it was basically threatening someone's life.
Very bad.
And he was banned, right?
Correct.
To the point that frustrated him enough to just say, I'm quitting League altogether. Now, his point of view is, okay, I should be able to say whatever I want inside this video game.
Because it is a video game, and it shouldn't matter.
Right. But he was banned anyway. But other people are like, well, you did kind of threaten someone. You kind of saw this coming. So where do you see that? Should he have gotten banned? Something else should have happened to him?
Yeah, he released a video about when he said he decided to quit League of Legends, and he actually read in the video the specific phrase that that got him reported.
Very colorful.
And I personally, I like his videos. They're very entertaining. I think it's hard to find somebody that doesn't like any of his content, but it's he does exhibit really toxic behavior. So I support the fact that he's been banned. And one thing that's interesting is that Riot Games never came out when League was released and said, this is how you should act in game. You can't say this. But they used to have a system called the Tribunal, in which players could log into their website, and it records the chat logs and things like player scores of games where people got reported, and then the players themselves go in and they vote on who should be punished or not. And then after a certain number of people have voted, it decides, does this person get punishment from Riot Games?
And they don't do that anymore?
And they stopped it a year or two ago, but they use the statistics from that to kind of base how now they kind of judge what things should be banned. So they've been really community driven in what they want to, in what kind of content they think is appropriate in game. And so people are really intolerant of like really closed-minded views, like hating on people for things like race or like sexual orientation. That has seen a lot of people respond really negatively to that in the tribunal. So Riot Games has kind of backed that. And so when Donkey himself got banned, actually the community, a lot of people were talking about it on Reddit and other social media websites because he's probably the largest content creator for League of Legends. The community's opinion was generally that they're sad that he's not going to be doing more League of Legends videos, but they agreed that the things he said are not really acceptable in game. So I believe he should have been banned.
Okay, fair enough.
So change is actually happening, you know, with toxicity actually decreasing now, right? Do you think?
Yeah, there are still toxic people in League, in MOBAs. You can't completely get rid of it. People are going to get angry. But when I look at the game now, as opposed to 5 years ago when I started playing, it's people can still say really bad things, but it is still I believe it has reduced somewhat, and it is a problem, but I'm hopeful that Riot Games will continue to try to implement some of these changes. Yeah, it's pretty tricky though, and you did mention that League of Legends now has over 67 million monthly players. As you get more people, they'll kind of have to be reintroduced to this experience.
Okay, and you know, you can't really get rid of all toxic people. It's just not going to happen. There will always, like you said, always be people around just to say mean-spirited things, just to be mean-spirited, right? And in the heat of the moment, people can say whatever they want and try to get away with it, and then get upset when they get banned or something like that, right? It's just, I don't want to say it comes with gaming, and it really shouldn't, but this is the culture that we love so much, in which we just know people will just be upset for no reason and then threaten you. But, well, I just want to say thank you to Sprintspeed for being here. High five, right? High five.
Yeah.
Oh, high five.
Okay. Close enough, right?
Close enough. I want to thank Sprintspeed for being here. This has been an awesome experience. He really has so much knowledge. And
thanks for letting us come over and show what you're playing.
yeah.
Thanks for having me on the show. It's always fun to talk about League of Legends.
And you actually have a Facebook group, right?
Yeah, we have a Facebook group for the club, so we can put that in the description down there.
Yep.
But yeah, if you guys are interested in checking this out, we do have some events, like some tournaments that are restricted to students, but anyone can come join in and play with us if you want to. We also do viewing parties for watching the major esports games, so that's pretty fun.
Okay. Well, you heard it from the man. Thanks for having our special guest here once more, and we will see you guys later.